Hello, this is Holly from Holly's Bakery, and I want to show you how to make my fluffy cupcake buttercream frosting. Now this one is going to be fluffy, not really recommended for wedding cakes because it has a lot of air in it, but it does taste wonderful because it is fluffy. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but I have 3 cups of shortening, and it has to be all vegetable shortening in there, or you can use the bakery shortening, but if you're just at home, just regular shortening will do because I'm going to add some fat to this, which will be some other type of fat, which will be the butter, and I will, because most of the shortening is non-hydrogenized, and I'm using all vegetable shortening. This one is not. I use the off-brand, and then you won't have, it won't be as gritty. So basically what you want to do is have 3 cups of shortening, and it's not going to matter on this one if it's the name brand or not. And you want to have a cup, which is 2 sticks of butter, real butter. So it's a 3-to-1 ratio. Now I'm just going to do this for you really quickly. Then what I want to do, I want to whip that really good, and if I don't get it whipped really good, then my frosting's not going to be fluffy for my cupcakes. And I really like fluffy frosting. So this is a double batch. I'm going to need 2 pound bags of confection sugar to make this. So remember, you need 3 cups of shortening, 2 pound bags of confectioner sugar, and you're going to need some vanilla, butter extract if you want, butter flavor, or almond extract, or if you want to make it orange, lemon, whatever flavor, you can go buy the extract for that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape down the bowl. And make sure that I get this really fluffed. So I had like a room temperature butter, and I had my shortening. So I'm going to fluff that up really well. Well, that's pretty fluffed up. So instead of using water, I don't know if you can see this, but I use a product called Pastry Pride. It's a non-dairy, ready-to-whip topping. This it can sit out. It can sit out for a while. I buy it from a distributor and keep it frozen, but you can also buy it at cake supply stores if you have a local cake supply store. You can order it online. I believe you can get it like through Amazon.com. There are lots of different ways. If you can't get this, then you just use regular heavy whipping cream. But be aware that the heavy whipping cream is dairy, and if anybody, well, the butter is dairy too, but when you mix it with sugar, it's usually okay to sit out for a little while because the sugar acts as a, my goodness, I'm lost for words. The sugar acts as a preservative. There you go. So what I want to do, instead of adding water to my frosting, I want to add the Pastry Pride. So I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 tablespoons of it so far. That's just to get it going. And actually I'm going to add a little bit more than that. 5, 6, 7, 8, because I have a double batch. So I'm adding 8 tablespoons of the Pastry Pride non-dairy whipped topping. You can also buy there's Rich's brand. It doesn't matter what brand. It's the non-dairy whipped topping that you whip yourself. Also, if you don't have this, you can stick some Cool Whip in there, and it will make it fluffy into your buttercream. But don't add the Cool Whip until the end, and then you kind of after you whip up your buttercream really good, add the Cool Whip in at the end. And don't use the non-fat Cool Whip or the low-fat. It has to be the full-fat, thick Cool Whip. So I'm going to whip that like crazy. until I get a nice fluffy consistency. And my butter had salt in it. Because I did a 3-to-1 ratio, I didn't use unsalted butter. I would normally use unsalted butter in my frosting if I were to do a 50-50 and then add some salt back. But since I did the salted butter in here, I will not put any salt. But if you do use unsalted butter, please be sure to add a pinch of salt. So you're going to need to add maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt or so, because you do want to take a little bit of that sweetness out of it. I also want to add, 4 teaspoons, so 1 per 1 pound package of vanilla extract. Actually, I'm going to add 3 because I'm going to also use a teaspoon of butter extract. And this is going to make it taste really buttery. So I have my butter flavoring in there. And I need to scrape my bowl down really good again, because my extracts flew all over the side and I want to get them incorporated in there. And I want this to be really fluffy frosting for my cupcakes, because I don't like cupcakes with the dense frosting on them. That's okay for the wedding cakes, but for the cupcakes I want it fluffy. And sometimes I use it on my wedding cakes. It depends on what the bride and groom want. So if they don't mind a few air pockets or a few air holes in their frosting and they want it to taste better, then this is the way to go. So I don't know if you can see this. Let me check. Let me show you. And hopefully, let's see if you can see that. You can see how really fluffy that is. It's fluffy. So I've got this fluffy base for my powdered sugar. And the important thing is that you really fluff this up good before you add that powdered sugar. So I'm going to turn it on low speed now. I'm going to grab my 2 bags of powdered or confectioner sugar, however you want to say it. Depends on where you're living. South, I think they say confection sugar, and the rest of us say powdered sugar. So anyway, I have my powdered sugar. You can sift this if you want. I don't sift it unless I'm usually going to decorate with it. This is, if it has lumps in it, I would sift it. If the bag felt lumpy, then I would sit there and take the time to sift it, but this looks very fine and it looks just right. So I'm going to dump 1 bag of confection sugar in there, and I'm going to let that, if I dump the other one in there, it'll overflow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that just, let me hold this up. I'm going to let that just come together, and I can actually turn it up a little bit higher right now. And you can see it's coming together just fine. And now I want to add, let me get my focus back to here. There we go. Now I want to add bag number 2. And if I were to make the frosting for the wedding cake, I would leave it at low speed and I would use my paddle instead of my whisk here. But I like the whisk because I like it fluffy. I don't know, it just tastes so much better to me when it's fluffy. So I'm just going to do this quickly. Make this a quick video. Whoops! And then I'm going to, in my next video for Holly's Bakery, I'm going to show you how to frost and airbrush a cupcake. Just a really quick decoration that you could do really easily. Today I am making 100 cupcakes for the school. And as you can see, this is really thick. So I need a lot more of, this is where if it's thick, and if I had added water, the 8 tablespoons of water instead of this is where you would see me add the Cool Whip now, and then that would thin it down some. So if you have Cool Whip, that would be the time to add it to thin it down some. In just one moment, guys, cupcakes are coming out of the oven. Sorry about that. So what I'm going to do is, because I think, and I'm going to use my little finger, I'm going to taste it. I think the 8 tablespoons of Pastry Pride is plenty for the flavor. So now I'm going to add some water. And I'm going to use by the tablespoon in my cups here. So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm adding about 1/4 of a cup more of water. And this is all going to be to your taste too. Start it out really slow or the water will slosh around. And you may have to add more as you go. And I'm going to beat it for a while and see how fluffy it gets. And I may add some more pastry pride too. It depends on how it tastes to me. And I find that every time I make it, I have to add a little less, a little more. Depends on the weather. The weather has a lot to do with the dryness. I'm in Arizona, so the dryness can make me add more water than it would somebody in a wet state. You know, let's say you were up in Oregon or something. You probably do not need as much water in your frosting or as much liquid per se, because you have a lot of moisture in the air and your icing is not going to dry out as fast. As far as Arizona, I find that everything I make I have to add more liquid to than the recipe calls for. So I'm going to scrape this down, and see, this is still way too thick for my liking. But I'm going to scrape it down to make sure I get the sides and the bottom all mixed in together. And I'm going to add, so hopefully you're counting while you're watching. So I had 8 tablespoons of pastry pride plus 4 tablespoons of water. And you can use all water if you want. Or you can use milk, whole milk. You can use heavy whipping cream. That would be fine. I'm going to use 2 more tablespoons of pastry pride in there, because it's not looking whippy to me. And then I'm going to use 2 more tablespoons of water. And again, I'm going to scrape the sides down. And I also think it depends on the powdered sugar you use too. I notice if I switch brands, if I use the name brand, I need less water. I know there is cornstarch in powdered sugar, and I think by brand it varies. So that's why I think that the liquid part changes from batch to batch. I won't go into all the details on the reason why they use the powdered sugar. It's pretty much, I mean, the cornstarch is to keep it separated after they grind it up so fine. But I'm gonna whip this like it's whipped cream, and see, that's a nice consistency to me. And I'm gonna keep on going. I'm gonna whip the hoodoodle out of that. Because I want it fluffy. This is for cupcakes. This is not for my cake. Well, I can use it on my cakes, but I like my buttercream really, really, really fluffy. And like I said, at this point, and you could add more extract if you wanted to make peppermint icing, orange icing, go by pure extracts and put them in. This just has vanilla and butter extract in it. I can put almond extract, is one of my favorites, but because I'm making it for a large crowd and I use the pure almond extract, I'm not sure if anybody's allergic to nuts, so I'm going to leave it out, because it's not on the label this time. So, because you have to label it if you do put anything that has, well, you have to label it anyway, but you'd have to add extra to the label that you have added some nut product to this. And they always can also contain nut products, but in my ingredients, I don't want to have that. So what I have here is I have this really fluffy, and I don't know if you can see this, but it's a totally whippy, fluffy whipped cream, like type frosting. But it's not really whipped cream, it's buttercream, but it's fluffier and it's not gritty and it tastes so good. So that's Holly's Bakery, how to make my fluffy frosting for cupcakes. And that's the buttercream frosting. I can also show you how to make, it also makes a big mess too. Also, I'll come probably show you how I make my fluffy cream cheese icing, and that will be in another episode. Getting a fluffy cream cheese icing is kind of hard. I don't like the crunchy cream cheese icing that's so like, I don't know, there's different ones, and mine is really good. So I'm going to show you how to make that one too, so you can make that one at home yourself. But anyway, this is Holly's Bakery from hollysbakery.com, and that's how you make fluffy buttercream icing for cupcakes or anything else you want to frost. A fluffy cake, if you want to make a fluffy buttercream icing and throw coconut all over that, that's a great icing to use. So come back and watch some more of my videos, and I'm going to make a few more videos. I'm going to actually make another video right after this and show you how to frost a cupcake and airbrush it to give it a little bit of a special touch. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you soon.